Yeah, it's been okay, mate. Like, just lots of contacts with charities and runners, and I don't know if you saw the announcement last week or heard from the London Marathon.
No, I missed it.
Yeah, yeah. So they've pushed it back till the 28th of July. So there'll be another update then. So we were due to be told Sunday just gone. An update. I think everyone was expecting a concrete yes or no.
Yeah.
Concrete. It's on, guys. We've got these in place. Keep, start training. We're working on something quite concrete here. Crack on. Or, guys, we've tried everything. New York's been cancelled. Berlin's been cancelled. Royal Parks has been postponed. We're so sorry. We've done everything we can, but in this climate, we can't do it, and it's unfair to make you prolong your agony anymore. So, kind of almost rip the plaster off. But the message was very much, we're doing everything we can. In the spirit of the London Marathon, we're going to do everything we can. Remember what this event is all about. We're doing everything, so if we can, we will. So that was met initially with, oh my gosh, more uncertainty in a time where everyone is so uncertain anyway. So there's lots on social media. No one really appreciated the message. And, I'm working hard now with charities and you guys, obviously, just to kind of strip it back a little bit and kind of install some positivity and instill some inspiration into people, and just realign people's goals a little bit more and understand what is going on. 28th of July, that would give, if there's another announcement then, that will give 9.5 weeks until potential race day on the 4th of October. That's plenty of time. That's plenty of time for someone to build up to complete the London Marathon. It is. Providing, they don't make excuses not to do anything now. There's plenty of time between now and then to actually build some foundations increase what they currently have been doing or not been doing, and get in a place where they can build.
Where do you think most people are at this stage? Have you got any idea, or have you?
So a couple of weeks ago, I did a Zoom call with a few charities and probably about 100 runners in total. I thought it'd be more 50-50, 50 people that have embraced the furlough and time off and trained and exercised really well. And 50% of people would have been, actually, no, I don't think it's on, therefore I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to fundraise, I'm not going to train. My gut says it's closer to 80-90%. Haven't been doing much. I was seeing, that's my gut. Again, I haven't got anything to back that up. It's just what I saw from people's body language, people in dressing gowns in the evening, and also the private conversations I've had with friends and email correspondence I've had with a lot of runners. Yeah. People are struggling. All in the whole world, people are struggling at the moment. Really, really struggling. Yeah. Without a fixed goal of London Marathon, there's lack of motivation, and we know that motivation isn't linear. That's when discipline comes in with a training plan, which we'll come on to. But we don't even know what day of the week it is, so it's sometimes hard to be disciplined. So therefore, we need to look at other factors that are going to make us lace up our trainers or do the right things to help us on a health before a performance aspect. Anything, we need to get people to really address their current situation and be honest with their starting point as of now.
So what do you think because I totally understand why people would lose all motivation to train for a 26-mile event, because it's a good length of time and a good time investment to get over that even to the starting line, right? So what would you say is the minimum people should be trying to attain at this stage? Do you think there's a sort of just like a base level that they should be setting the targets at, if you see what I mean?
I think we know how important goals are. There's a goal of the 4th of October at the moment, which may or may not move. The one that's fixed at the moment is the 28th of July. That's the nearest thing that people could work towards. And today's date of the 27th of June. So there's a good month there. The answer to all these questions, it depends. It depends. And I think we need to have a discussion about how people are feeling on a day-to-day basis. So when we start looking at training plans or what we're meant to be doing, or should be doing, that's more anxiety. That's more kind of pressure that we're putting on ourselves in a time where I'm not sure we can handle that level of pressure. So I can give you a million examples over the decade plus I've done this event with runners of people doing no training, limited to a whole aspect, which I'll touch on in the future. But once people can understand that they can power walk this thing, you can complete the London Marathon by not running the London Marathon,
Yeah.
and many thousands of people on the day will walk at some point the London Marathon. And it doesn't matter if you do it in under 3 hours, under 8 hours, you still get the same medal, same accomplishment. The only thing you have to control on the day is your ego.
Yep.
And other people's expectations on you, because on that Monday morning after the London Marathon, you'll be there full of pride, limping down the stairs with your medal still around your neck. And the only thing people are ever going to say to you is, how quick did you do? What was your time? It's the only thing they're going to say to you. And it doesn't matter what time you give them, that metric, it's not good enough. You're not going to get the response that you actually deserve or what you want, because the people that are asking that question, one, haven't done the event before, and two, know that someone's done the marathon in under 2 hours. So it doesn't matter. And by nature, it's easier to bring people down than it is to lift them up, So ego is a big player in this game. And I think social media has got a lot to answer for in that, and in comparison on, of others on Strava's and Instagram and Facebook. So once people can let go of this whole notion of having to kill yourself on the day, and it's a real battle, and it's a war, and it's uncomfortable for everyone, but the day is there to enjoy. Once you cross that start line, 99% of people are going to finish that race. The hard bit is getting on that start line, and even now, it's harder than ever. But, the tougher the journey, the sweeter the reward. So at the moment, it's just a case of bringing people back in, making them part of a niche and a collective of doing good, doing for others. Discipline and motivation are out the window at the moment, which is understandable. Then we need some purpose, and we need some, why are you doing this thing? Why are you really doing this? Doing it to change the life of someone else. I said with fundraising, at the same time, you've got to look at it and think, I'm changing my life for the better. We've got to focus on ourselves at the moment more than ever.
Yeah.
So am I doing the right things now to enable me to have a great day on hopefully the 4th of October?
Yeah. So what you kind of alluded to it before, but what is the London Marathon? How do you, how do you define the London Marathon? You've kind of given a few examples, but
Mike, unless you do it, you don't understand it. It's a couple of things. Definitely, it's the world's largest one-day fundraising event. It is. It raises tens and tens of millions of pounds every year, which is incredible. But also, it's the world's largest single-day therapy session. And honestly, there's a couple of moments we come out the last tunnel. There's when you hit the Mall, when you wave at the Queen, Buckingham Palace, you go down the Mall, you see people's bodies changes. I'm always watching people at the finish line, and you can see people's bodies change. There's emotion, there's tears. People are fundraising, yes, but they're letting go of some demons. They're letting go of some of things in their lives that we're all going through. When they cross that line, they're a different person. I think we get so fixated upon crossing that finishing line, which is great. That's the reward. That's that lump of metal you get at the end. It's just the tip of the iceberg. It's this whole process thing. It's about changing your life and becoming a better individual every single day. And
would you say that has kind of repercussions after you finish the event? So rather than it just being, I did the London Marathon, I did it in, let's say 5 hours, done, finished, moved, done, and never really think about it again? Or does it continue to have, like you say, that kind of process?
I think mentally it changes a lot of people. Everyone hurts physically on that race. Everyone does. Yeah. Mentally, honestly, I've been there, and every step you're like, why am I doing this? You battle these demons. Also in your training runs as well. Running's pretty isolating. It's pretty boring. Some of it's, some of it's hard. Some of it's really, really hard mentally. On the day when you've accomplished something, that's very important, and something that a lot of people don't do or haven't make excuses not to do. You're a different animal. You are. Some people will finish that race and go, I'm never running again. Never doing that again. Some people get the bug. Everyone goes through a bit of grief. Everyone after gets that post-marathon blues. And that's why I work with a lot of charity runners after the event, because it's a massive void to fill. It's almost an obsession and lots of eyes on me. And once that goes, you're like, now what? Which is why it's very important after an event like that to channel it into something else. Because you know what?
People take away in general. Do you think it's, obviously there's accomplishment. What is there, like a list of things that a top 5 list of things that you think people take away from completing the London Marathon? Or
just achieves, it's just that mental and physical, you've upgraded yourself. You've set yourself a goal of crossing something that a lot of people make excuses not to do. A lot of people pull out from due to physical reasons, but also a lot of people pull out of that event because of up there. So I think you're a different human being. I think when you finish an event like the London Marathon, there's things in life where you can achieve more. You've done something very, very hard. You've tested yourself. You find yourself in life through struggle, physically, mentally, whatever, and it helps with anxiety in the future. We've survived, even now, we've survived in life 100% of the things that we've been stressed about in our lives. We're going to get through this, touch wood. We are, we've survived all the anxieties we've ever accomplished. And at the time, some of those anxieties and those feelings that we've experienced, you thought there's no way out of it. We've lost people. We've a whole host of things. There's a whole range we could go into. But we get through everything, but you really find yourself and you learn from struggle. Struggle and stress is a good thing, providing your body and mind can handle it.
Yeah. So how do that kind of probably moves us on to what we were talking about. How do people prepare, and maybe what is the best way to prepare for the London Marathon? Perhaps I think from your time of doing this, what do you see as the big pitfalls in training? And we kind of talked about it pre-video about having more generic plans and things like that. Is there any tips and advice that you think are key to helping people get maybe A, started, but then B, what things did they avoid on that journey that might?
There's a couple of things. I think it's being brutally honest with your starting point of who you are right now. It doesn't matter if you were cross-country champion like 30 years ago. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter if you were fit or in shape or 2 stone lighter this time last year. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you were even pre-lockdown in great shape and you were up to double-figure mileage. You've done nothing since then. You can't compare yourself to a past you or concern yourself too much with the future you yet. It's being very honest with where you are right now, working at how many days, weeks, months there is until the event, and kind of work backwards and safely. What can I do right now? Historically, I've got a big issue with generic training plans. I think many people will get a place in the London Marathon and they'll type into Dr. Google London Marathon training plan or whatever, and you're hit with a plethora, an abundance of training plans from intermediate, beginner, advanced. I don't even know what that means. I don't know what that means, if I'm honest with you. Or it might be a sub 4 hour, sub 3 hour, I'll say sub 4 first, because it's that magic number that everyone wants to hit. So what does that even mean? The majority, 80% of first time runners, what does that even mean? Some have never run before. How on earth can you pick a training plan on a marathon finish when you've never run 5K before?
Yeah.
They're very, and typically most training plans are running dominant, and London Marathon is a very different event. These training plans online are generally written by people that love running and runners themselves, or people that coach runners, and a vast majority of charity runners in the London Marathon are none of those things. They're normal people that are very time poor. And they get a generic training plan and it provides a lot of pressure. And yes, we know they make you accountable, they give you some structure, and their training plans are vital, they are. But then makes you get the anxiety of, I should be doing something, I'm meant to be doing something. And it gives us additional pressures. And right now, I don't think people can day by day be sure they're going to feel a certain way to be able to do a performance aspect of a fixed training plan.
Yeah. So I think, that's what, Gus and I are quite keen on. It's about understanding the individual. Gus kind of alluded to it in our previous conversations as well, about whether you screen people but you need to understand what their goals and aspirations are, and what their capability is to attain a training plan or stick to a training plan. So we're very big on tailoring it, the tailored approach, and making sure we look at their lifestyle factors, their history of fitness, their current fitness level is a good starting point for us to build forward. So I don't know if you want to add anything on that, Gus, or...
Yeah, well, Phil alluded to it straight away, but with with different people. You know, you can't have a set training program for everyone, but kind of your first principle of training is individual differences. And even if you had two people who are similar fitness levels, they wouldn't respond to the same training program in the same way. And no plan really survives first contact. And like, this is obviously a really obvious example of, you start your training program, you get into the swing of it a little bit, and then lockdown happens and the whole process is completely changed. You might be working from home, or you might be, all these factors change completely. That's a very extreme example, but the ones that me and Mike see all the time are people who pick up a niggle halfway around, and they're meant to be doing, you know, a 12-mile run at the weekend this weekend, and they feel obliged that they have to do it. And they're, oh, okay, I'll just go out and take some ibuprofen and crack through it and see what happens. And then they accumulate this kind of pain or stuff that stops them running, have 2 weeks off, and just kind of pick up where that training program said they would be in 2 weeks' time, but they haven't acquired that level of fitness. And then you see these like boom bust cycles of do nothing, cane it, and try and catch up where I was, and it just doesn't really work. So there's just too many variables to have a set training program for everyone. The only variable that could potentially be similar for a lot of people is the weekly volume, how many miles you're going to run or do. It doesn't necessarily need to run, you can walk them. Anything with intent would be reasonable. But even then, like you said, if you've never run 5K before, you can't look at a training program and week one, you're like, okay, I've got a 4-mile run at the weekend. Literally never run that far in my life. And now I'm expected to do 2 short runs in the week and then go out on the run. So my weekly volume is 5 times what I've ever done before on week one. It might work, but it's so unlikely. You're so likely to pick up some kind of problem along the way.
It's too big an increase, isn't it? Too quickly.
Too quickly. That's the crucial thing. You know, the distance is huge, and there's no getting around that. Everyone's going to do this massive distance that a lot of people will have never done before. And I'd say the biggest pitfall is people looking at 16 weeks and thinking, that's how long I need to train. Whereas if I'm an ultra runner and I run, you know, my weekly volume already is around 20-30 miles, my plan is going to look a lot different to the person who's just finished a couch to 5K, and they can run 5K, but that's about it. They need longer to build up that volume of running and give their body time to adapt to it.
And most endurance plans, they have it's like a 12-week base phase anyway, you know, the base training, which is very low level. It's all about volume, building the volume at a really low level.
Yeah. And
you know,
even elite level runners, 80% of their training is done in that base phase, which is fractionally above a walk. Like, I think people really underestimate the value of the low intensity stuff. They feel that they, you know, if it doesn't hurt, they've not pushed themselves hard enough in that run. They didn't get anything from it. And I think something that I see all the time is people, and this isn't just to do with running, it's with anything, with training for anything, is they massively overestimate what they're able to do in the short term and massively underestimate what they're able to do in the long term.
Love that. We're addicted to suffering. We become like martyrs all the time. And, you know, it's like, unless you are pouring sweat, nipples bleeding, keeling over the curb, you haven't done a session.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people's marathon pace isn't dissimilar to a power walking pace. The only difference is a significant decrease in load on the body and controlling some ego. You know, if
that's it.
Again, these people that ask you how quickly you completed the London Marathon on that Monday, all you've got to do is have a walk run strategy or power walk. As soon as you know where your friends are going to be on Tower Bridge or wherever they be, put a little shift in, put a little run in. Are they looking great? Picture high five, kiss, cuddle, off you go, get around the corner, go back to your walk run strategy. Also, whenever you see an official photographer, put a shift in. Put a shift in, and then it's smoke and mirrors. You've got your medal. No one knows what the time means anyway. You've got your photo of you running. What more do you want? You've changed your life. You've crossed that line. You've raised a huge amount of money for charity. You've improved yourself. So the other thing with going back to training plans is there's far more to it than just running. And historically, they were just full of run the stay rest, run, whatever it might be. There's a whole different host of different types of running things you can do: threshold, interval, fartlek, negative splits, heart rate. It could be all slow, recovery, marathon pace. It's so confusing. The running's only part of it. There's strength and conditioning, which we need to talk about. There's recovery, there's mobility, there's cross training, there is all nutrition, all sorts of things that people aren't focused in that go into a training plan. So there's a lot out there, and we doing a bespoke training plan, paying for it, getting a coach is obviously the best thing to do, because they're going to help you. They're going to understand your current physical state, your mental state, more importantly, and day by day, week on week, checking in with you. Okay, this was the plan week 1. Have you done it? Great. How did you feel? Feel great? Okay, we're going to carry on. Didn't feel great? Okay, we need to adjust this. You don't get that from a generic training plan, and there's no plan you're ever going to find online which is lockdown, corona friendly. There's not. So working with a coach comes with a financial implication, but it's priceless. It's going to improve you. You're going to have a better day. You're going to perform better. And the other way of doing this thing is to educate people. It's the hardest one, but if you can get people to put their own training plan together and empower them and what to do, that's only a positive thing. You'll educate people for life. Like, it's not just this fixed destination piece of getting a finishing medal. We're giving tools for life. We want to change people's lives going forward. And that's, a lot of people still can't do that because it's hard. It's hard to motivation isn't linear. It's hard to be motivated every day. It's hard to then have, discipline, which you might be able to get more if you put your own training plan together. But, it's daily inspiration that we need, or a coach,
Yeah.
And on that, with the training programs, people are probably thinking, okay, well, how do I put a training program together? What is the first thing? And like you said, there's loads of these complex variables that you can look at. But ultimately, if you go to if it's a running coach or a strength and conditioning coach or a physio, whoever it is, the first questions really are going to be like, okay, what are the non-negotiables? Like, are you going away at any point and you're not going to be able to run? When is the date of the event? How many times a week can you train? And this all comes back to really, like, the best plan is the one that gets done, gets followed relatively closely. It will never be exactly as you write it out, but if you can stick to that plan relatively consistently, that's going to stand you in good stead. There is no point having good intentions and looking at a plan that is doing something 5 days a week, where you work 5 days a week, you have kids, or you've got other time commitments, and you were just going to constantly cut corners, and that is where the wheels will come off. So if I was sat down writing a training program for me now, I'd have, okay, today's date is the 27th of June. Let's say the 4th of October is it's definitely going to go ahead. That gives me 15 weeks. I can train X number of times per week, and I want to build up my mileage to kind of, most tapers are around 2 weeks. So, and then you've got a really rough structure. And as you say, like walk runs and that really low intensity stuff, especially if you're a novice runner, don't underestimate the value of going out. If you go and do 5 miles as a walk, that absolutely counts as part of your training. Or if you have to walk, run, or if you want to, and then you do slightly shorter sessions where you run the whole thing, it doesn't really matter how you get that volume in, because you still get those adaptations.
It's letting go of the ego, isn't it? And just loading volume is just about consistency, and we need to, a small run is better than no run. and but a small run which isn't going to absolutely fatigue you, knacker you out to the point where you are sore for a few days, that might not always be necessary. If you are more experienced and have accumulated training volume over the years and your body's used to higher impact, then intensity type sessions might be more relevant. But lower intensity for the beginner and maybe building the volume gradually but with consistency, and making sure there are plenty of rest days is almost like the key to a good training plan. It's just a gradual consistency. It's like there's the tortoise versus the hare, isn't it? You know, the tortoise will get there.
Yeah.
But they'll do it a slightly different way than the hare, and the hare's playing a much riskier game. In a way, it's a game that risks the blow up and the all or nothing type response. I'm gonna go hard. I'm gonna really build the intensity, and then 4 weeks into the plan, they've got raging knee pain or ITB issues or back problems because they've just overdone it too quickly, ramped it.
And they really don't enjoy it. Again, the key to any training plan is doing the training plan. If you enjoy it, you're more likely to do it. But if you do have this attitude of, I've got to batter myself in every session because I'm a martyr and I'm doing this thing, you're only going to just like hate your life. And it comes at a cost. You know, doing something like the London Marathon has a time implication on your life. It does. You know, it's only so many hours in the day where we've got work, homeschooling at the moment on Google, which is wonderful. There's only so many hours in the day, right? You know, committing to the London Marathon and training and exercising around it takes time away from your family. It does. It takes time away from your friends. It takes time away from your work. It does. So you've got to enjoy it. Otherwise, then resentment builds up. And if we don't like something, we're not going to do it. So I think walk run is such a powerful protocol and tool, particularly now. It does, because physically and mentally, it's far less of a demand. But you're still, and there's less excuses to make. Again, you wake up feeling a 2 out of 10 on it, but on this plan it says, oh, I'm meant to be doing an hour threshold session. My goodness, the last thing you should be doing. You'll be far better off. Go, you know what? I'm a 2 out of 10 now. I haven't slept very well. A lot of stress. Work. You know, I don't feel great. I actually don't feel great. You know what? You shouldn't be doing it. You're not going to get the positive returns from it. You're not. You're far better off going, you know what? I'll move that to another day. Instead, what would suit me better? Going out for a walk for an hour and a half, podcast, walk, run, feel better. Because then you're getting those exercise benefits that we need. You know, feeling better. You know, mentally clearer. You know, gets rid of some of those other stresses. If you're already stressed, not feeling a 2-3 out of 10, and you bash yourself on a run, you're not going to recover from it. You know, and you're going to have a go at the kids. You're going to fall out with your partner. It comes at a cost. And right now, generally, it's not the way to play it. But right now, you're going to be very, very sensitive. Very sensitive of how you're feeling.
I think you know, people have to be kind to themselves, right? You just kind of got onto that. You know, like, you don't have to beat yourself up. You don't have to suffer. You are allowed to have days where you don't do as much, or you have days off. Rest is just an important part of the training plan, and days where you don't work as hard, or, you know, like you say, if you feel 2 out of 10 on your overall wellness or whatever it might be, just if you're not right that day, you don't have to force it. Just, you know, and part of the motivating factor is, like you say, enjoyment. And there's many reasons why we should be getting outdoors at the moment. You know, just to get out and have some fresh air is a good thing. But it doesn't have to be an intense run. It doesn't have to be, you know, an absolute killer session. Go and connect with the outdoors. Get a podcast on, listen to some music, and just enjoy the time out there. But don't punish yourself. You don't have to be, you know, it's not necessary. But if you are accumulating volume now, it will pay dividends later on. And, you know, it's almost like doing nothing is definitely not helping, but overdoing it is also running the risk of not helping. So you need to just find somewhere in the middle ground, not doing too much or too little. Stay motivated.
And I would go like even beyond that, saying like, I don't feel like you have to do these intense sessions. But I've worked with fairly high level runners, and they just don't do them. Like it's so infrequent they do those sessions. Like I would actively encourage people not to do multiple, a threshold session and a high intent. If they said they're going to do 2 high intensity sessions in a week, I'd be really questioning why. Like in the most basic sense, your performance will essentially just equal how fit you are minus how fatigued you are. So if you can acquire fitness and minimize fatigue, which is essentially what training is, and that's why we taper, then good. But the session cost, again, it comes back to people underestimate the short term. The session cost of something like a threshold run or a high intensity interval session, or however you want to describe it, these things where you run pretty close to your maximum for sustained periods, that will take a long time to recover from. Even during lockdown, I've been doing, going out and doing anywhere between half an hour to an hour runs at a steady state. And then there was talk of football potentially coming back soon. So it's like, right, I need to get on some kind of tempo runs or something. I could not walk for a week because my calves were so sore. And that's even after building like a month, 2 months worth of relatively steady state training. But it shot myself in the foot because it meant now I can't do any training for a week.
And there's a doctor, I've been listening to a podcast called Fast Talk, and they do they talk about, sorry Phil to I wasn't trying to plug anything, but I just
good buddy, crack on.
But they do a lot of endurance talk for cyclists, and they talk with a few of the kind of world renowned sports physiologists. And there's a guy called Dr. Seiler, or Dr. Stephen Seiler, and he's kind of the guru on polarized training. And like you say, Gus, he talks about the 80-20 rule. So these elite endurance athletes, they will do 80% of their training in like a very low intensity, which to a lot of people feels like they're doing barely nothing. And you and I could keep up with these elite athletes at those levels. And when you look at it on a diary level, if you factor in 2 days a week rest, so about 100 to 110 days of rest a year, and then if you then take the remaining days that are left for training, which is about 265 days or 260, 80% of those days, 200 of those training sessions, 210, are at a really low level. And 50 days of those, or 50 of those training sessions are at a more intense level. So that equates to 1 a week, like Gus just said. It doesn't need to be all the time. You're going to get so much more out of low intensity, and your body will thank you because of that. So the science, it's not just us saying it through experience. This is actually, it's scientifically proven. And
there's so much evidence for it. Yeah.
Sorry?
There's just so much evidence for it. And it is mind-blowing why.
And if the best in the world do it, why go against what the best in the world do?
Yeah.
The only difference between
Dave on Facebook, is doing 4-minute miles. That's the problem. You haven't. I don't know which president it was, but they said that comparison is the thief of all joy, right? And I think social media is killing people, making people even more anxious because they're comparing themselves all the time. The number one thing I get from people at email, I'm not a runner, is the first thing people will email me will say, well, I'm not a runner. I'm not very fast. I'm like, well, what's the definition of running? And like, honestly, like 1 foot in front of you moving forward, and I think the simplicity of running is beautiful. And I think we could all take on that right now in life. We move forward. It's 1 foot in front of the other. It's day by day. We are moving towards something. Life goes on, right? Life goes on. So we have to keep moving forward. But it's just, yeah, it's Dave on Facebook, it's Miss Megan, it's whoever. People are looking at what other people are doing and not understanding the cost of that. They're not seeing Dave in 4 weeks' time who's done something pretty horrific to his calf or his hip flex or his glutes or whatever it might be. It's just at the time like, oh my gosh, that's much faster than me. They must be much better than me. Well, you don't know what their starting point is. You don't know what their goals are. You don't know what their capacity is. You don't know anything. But it's just killing people. I'll just recommend anyone to get off social media. If you're getting any anxiety whatsoever, comparing yourself to other people, get off it. You don't need to do it. And ego, we keep saying it's ego thing, but it's such an important thing. And once you know you can walk, run this thing, and power walk it. For a lot of running, a lot of people could power walk a lot of their training. They could do, or run it, and not only will they physically improve physiologically, but also mentally. Right now, it's the best thing they should be doing. Less is more.
And they'll probably have fewer conversations with me and Mike. If you have a high volume and low intensity program, I would put money on those people sustaining far fewer injuries than the guy who goes out and blitzes his tempo sessions or his high intensity sessions 2-3 times a week. Most people I speak to in their marathon plan have either not really set out a realistic plan and had to spike up their volume really, really quickly. So rather than increasing by, let's say 10% per week for 6 months, rather than that, they've had to take some time off their training program. They've got 2 months till the race day, so they've got 6 weeks till they need to peak. So they're increasing their mileage by 5 miles every week, and their body just cannot adapt that fast. And we are really constrained by these biological timeframes. We can't accelerate the rate of adaptation. We can make it better and help someone's body to adapt to that, but no one can no matter, even if you've got the best team in the world behind you, there's no injections, there's no training, there's nothing that can shortcut that process.
You can't speed up what tendons do. You've got to give them time. Tendon physiology dictates everything happens at a snail's pace, right? So, muscles tend to adapt relatively quickly, but often it's our connective type tissue that struggles and lags behind, and that's where we get issues often. So we need to, you just need to be kind and respect, as Gus says, physiology. Our body, there's no magic pill, there's no injection. Some people do have different genetics that maybe allows them to accelerate, or they've got better training history. They've, as a youth, as a child, they were more active, so maybe their connective tissue built up a level of resilience. But there's a big part of just building gradually and listening to your body. So it's
I love all that, and I think there's a million things we can talk about. Exciting injury prevention, and there's all sorts of recovery techniques, and there's warm weather training. Obviously, we're going to have to discuss all these things are going to happen. But it's just right now, it's just getting people just to take a breath, be kind to themselves, and focus on exercise and sensible, intelligent training. To again look at the 28th of July as the next point. What can I do right now safely to build up and be a better version of myself for then 4 weeks time? What am I going to do? What can I guarantee myself that I can commit to every week? Guarantee is a hard thing to do actually right now, but can I commit to 2 sessions, 3 sessions, whatever it might be?
Yeah.
And just because you are not out running doesn't mean there's things you can't do every single day to improve yourself. There's a mobility, body weight, strength work, reading, educating yourself. There's a million things you can do.
Yeah, I think my if someone was asking me now, what can I do now? I would say tomorrow will be 15 weeks from the 4th of October. That gives you around 12 to 13 weeks probably before you're going to do probably your longest training run. Not necessarily for everyone, but probably around then. if you're not doing anything now, you know, the timelines for adaptation that Mike mentioned and I mentioned, for bone, muscle and tendon all to adapt to tolerate the amount of force which will go through it during a marathon, which is enormous, the minimum time frame to see any measurable adaptation is around 12 weeks. So if you start now, you will still see that adaptation in time. But if you leave it another month till the next announcement, you're trying to compress that down into a shorter time frame, and that is always where the wheels come off. So I would pick a weekly volume that you think is sensible for you. And that doesn't, as we said, it doesn't need to be running. It can be really, the whole thing can be really low intensity. You could walk your entire volume. So if you picked 7 miles for this week, or week, let's say starting Monday, just because it's easier to carry over, how you get that in doesn't really, if you want to do a mile a day, but walking with some purpose, so you're not just wandering around the house, you go out and you do 1 mile walk, let's say a brisk walk, that is completely acceptable. And the minimum anyone should be doing is, you know, you look at the government guidelines and you should be doing 30 minutes of moderate intensity activity. That counts as walking. So really you should be doing something near that anyway. And then that's for 90% of people, if you broke it down like that, that's going to be completely a reasonable way to build up your marathon training, even if you don't do that much running in it. You do your 7 miles this next week, starting Monday, and 2 of those miles on the Monday and the Thursday, or whatever days you want to split them, are running. That is, for me, if someone said that, I said that sounds completely sensible. And then in terms of recovery, there's, you know, you go to Google and you go on Facebook and you see people using Theraguns or you can't get massages now really, but doing all these potentially expensive adjuncts. The only things that have got significant evidence behind them is sleeping more than 7 hours a night. So if you're getting up at 5 a.m. to go on a training run, that's almost certainly counterproductive and you'll perform worse because you're not recovering. Eating enough and drinking enough. That's essentially it. Everything else, if it works for you, so if you foam roll and you find it really helpful, or you stretch afterwards and that makes you feel much better, absolutely stick with that. But I wouldn't say to people, if you're not getting in an ice bath after your runs, you're going to break down, because it's simply not true.
Is the juice worth the squeeze? And I think you're right. It's all the basic stuff that we should be doing. You know, it's more. It's very simple. It's very simple, right? Like, but we overcomplicate things and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We aren't kind to ourselves, and we're just conditioned, particularly now, to go, what else can I stress about? What else can I struggle about? We just get addicted to struggling and suffering, and just be kind to yourself. Really, really. I mean, I had a video chat last week with a guy called Mike Dixon, and he founded WizKids, a charity that I've worked with for over a decade. Brilliant charity. They provide mobility for disabled children. It's the London Marathon's 40th year. WizKids was founded 30 years ago by Mike, based on the London Marathon. He got a place after drinking a load of gin and tonics at a dinner party, and one of the sponsors back then said, do you want a place? He's like, oh, I could probably do the London Marathon. Okay, great. And a couple of people at the dinner party said, well, if you do it, we'll give you £1,000, the charity of your choice. And that's how it started. And I'll let you listen to the video, but ultimately he turned up on that race day 30 years ago, having never run more than 6 miles in distance. He finished it in 6.5 hours time, raised £9,000, and from a few months later set up WizKids, and from there he's transformed the lives of 18,000 children. This London Marathon raises over £1 million for the charity. I think he sums up what the London Marathon is for me. It's just being selfless, and what he's done there is incredible. And shows 6.5 hours. Most people will be happy with that. I think a lot of people will be happy with that, and particularly people that haven't got a clue how quick that is. That's respectable enough. He enjoyed it, but the point is, he didn't ever do more than 6 miles in his training. He still did it. And the knock-on effect it's had has been quite significant.
Yeah. I think literally getting around 26.2 miles, however you get round, is an achievement. Unless it's your, fifth marathon and you're pretty competitive and you really want to set a new PB, then fine. I'm not criticizing the people who want to do it quicker. But for people who've never done one before, even if you get, let's say, 4 hours, you've got no barometer of you can't compare it to anything because you've got no, okay, what did I do last time?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But the timing things is people do have this magical sub 4 hour thing. Everyone loves it, and there's too many unknowns on the day, and we'll get to this at another time. But you're asking a lot of your body. If you've never run more than, say, 18 miles in training or 20 miles in training on the day, you don't know how your body's going to feel with extra fuel and running a further distance. You're not going to. The weather's the big variable as well on the day. That's where you have to control ego and all the rest of it. The adrenaline dump as well. It's exhausting before you can get on that start line emotionally. So there's a number of variables, and then have that added pressure. We'll talk about goals of the day, but they should be varied. There should be 3 different goals of time. You should roughly know where you're going to finish. There's one that you really want, and there's one that you don't tell people. Just don't tell people what your expectations are, because you're setting yourself up for potential failure. You don't need that pressure. But we can get to that another time.
Yeah. So I think just a bit of a summary from what I've heard is the marathon is it's a very important event in the lives of the people that are doing it. It makes a lot of change and positive change to the charities. That it's raising money. It really is making positive changes to the world. The people that are doing it are obviously taking on a big task, and they are, they're going on a journey of discovery a lot of the time with the people that you're working with. There's going to be a lot of uncertainties based around motivation and the best way to train, and what we're trying to say is that you shouldn't feel pressured to necessarily do it in a set time based around what Google or people tell you should do. And also, if you are unsure about how best to do it, experts like yourself, Phil, and myself and Gus can offer help and advice on the best way to do it, where we are around to offer support where necessary.
Are you guys remote at the moment? Are you back in clinic, or what's the
We're remote at the moment, but we will be. We are looking at sort of mid to end of July for opening again in London. So we're going to be making an announcements, and what I would say is it might be that I'll give you our Instagram or our Twitter handle, and you can maybe keep an eye, maybe distribute our details to people that might be listening to this podcast. And then, we're just happy to offer help and support, really. Gus is going to be doing the online stuff for the foreseeable. And then when we're back in clinic, I'll also be around to support that. So yeah, from my point of view, I think this is a really great thing to have started. We're finding our feet. I've never done a podcast before, so hopefully it's flowed and not been too disjointed.
I hear you. I'm exactly the same. But again, if we can motivate someone, get out the door today, or it's a voice that someone's needed to hear, then jobs are good. And there's too much pressure out there. I want to be very raw with people, bring in good people that understand what people are, mentally and physically. So, Gus, have you found all the online remote kind of assessments and treatment and things? Because I've heard some really real success stories. I don't think it's been too disjointed, right?
Yeah, it took some getting used to in the first probably week. Obviously, as a physio, a large part of our job, especially in assessing people, is touch, feeling. You can get a lot of information through questioning people, and then you can adapt testing to to, so people can do it themselves at home over a webcam. Before this even happened, we were aware, I say we, as doctors, physios, chiropractors, osteopaths, the tests we do are quite crude. We can usually locate someone's pain and say it's coming from around this structure, but it's quite rare for us to be able to say this one test gives us this one diagnosis. So it's not, while it did take some getting used to, it's the whole picture that you would use to make a diagnosis and make a plan. I'd still say, if you, when we do open, it is better to have a face-to-face appointment, but there's definitely value in the online appointments, and there's quite a few tests we can do of, almost like screening tests. Say, okay, well, how much capacity do you have to perform the tasks that you want to do? Are you strong enough? Which for marathon training, people probably underestimate the value. I've got biases. I'm a strength and conditioning coach as well. But if you just look at the numbers of how much force will go through your foot when you run. So I saw something yesterday of, for an average 10K pace, or an average 10K runner, a competitive 10K runner, if you do it in 50 minutes, that will equate to about 1.6 million kilos going through your calf complex over the course on each leg. So it's just obscenely high numbers, and there's fairly basic tests that we can do at home to check, how far, where are you and where do you want to be, and how big is the gap between those two. And that doesn't mean I'll turn around and say people and don't do the marathon or don't run because you're not strong enough or you're whatever it is, but it will help guide someone's training and give them that start point of saying, okay, your physical capacity is quite low, so our ramp up to this event probably needs to be slower. So we need to use more adjuncts like walk runs or going out for longer walks. Whereas someone who's really well conditioned and is strong and has got a bit of training history, we can be a little bit more aggressive and say, okay, well, actually, if you do want to go out and do one higher intensity session a week or every other week, you'll probably be able to tolerate that without major issues.
Awesome. Well, I'll put all the details for you guys, for everyone to send your way, guys. I think I want to work with people that sing on our hymn sheet, right? It's understanding people's starting point and want to help people towards a goal, of changing their lives for the better and doing it safely and enjoyably as possible. So there's a bit of good news. I think I just saw the Hamburg Marathon. They're optimistic it might happen on the 13th of September. So that's over 10,000 runners. So we'll see how that works. But I've just saw that pop in just about 5 minutes ago, just on my. So I haven't looked at details of how they're going to do that. But look, I'm a man of action, not necessarily hope. But I think sometimes we need a bit of that at the moment. So we shall see. But I think we shall leave it there. I think that's awesome. I really appreciate it, and much more to talk about in the future on all things kind of physio and injury prevention, and actually strength and conditioning and types of training and recovery. There's a whole host of things at the moment. Getting people to understand starting point. Understanding people's starting point, understanding how long they've got to train, and just being sensible and kind. I think that's all they need to be doing.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, look, I'll let you crack on with your Saturdays. It's been a pleasure.
Great. Thank you.
And we'll speak very, very soon. Okay, guys.
Take care.
Cheers, guys.